Well, my classmates were very, very cordial and kind. Most of them, not all of them, of course. Uh, I recognized my first class that some of these kids, my classmates, came from backgrounds, generations and generations of lawyers. Matter of fact, one of my classmates' relatives had been governors in Indiana and on the Supreme Court in Indiana, various appellate courts in Wisconsin. I recognized my first class that the criteria that we had ordinarily used throughout my academic career of competing with others was not the appropriate approach. And I immediately shifted to competing with myself.
And you learned that just on your own?
In one day, when the classmates was asked to stand up and introduce themselves, their background, what have you, and they would stand up and they come from this family and this family, and their dad and their granddaughter, daddies and uncles, aunts, what have you, were in the legal profession. I recognized that it would be stupid for me to try to compete with them academically and use their standard to influence me, my standard. So I began to compete with myself. So the best thing for me to do is do the best I can for myself. And the transition from the usual normal academic concept of factual precision, 1 and 1's 2, 2 and 2 are 4, that I had utilized and been throughout my academic career from kindergarten through college. It took me a semester to learn that that's not the approach in law school. In law school, it's 1 and 1 makes 2 if you add it, but you put 1 beside 1, it's 11.
Right.
2 plus 2 is 4 if you add it, but if you put them
Right.
side by side, it's 22. And it took me a semester to realize that the law curriculum is appreciably different from any other curriculum. But after learning that, there's nothing to it. I got along well academically.
Now, I know later in your career you became a judge, but before you became a judge, you got out of Northwestern and you practiced. What was it like practicing young black man, city Chicago, you know, in the early 50s and 60s?
It was awfully difficult. As a matter of fact, when I took the bar exam, when I got news that I had passed the bar exam, when I went to Springfield to be sworn in as a lawyer in June 18th, 1951, I was at that time washing dishes in a Jack and Jill restaurant on East 55th Street. And finally, a lawyer by the name of Joseph E. Clayton, Jr., who officed at 3518 South State Street on the second floor, over the office of Congressman Dawson, gave me a job.
Right.
William Dawson, Congressman of the 1st Congressional District of the State of Illinois. Joe Clayton gave me a job and paid me $20 a week because I could only work from 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 when I went on my job washing dishes.
So you practiced as a lawyer and you washed dishes?
That's right. I went to court with Joe Clayton during the day and washed dishes at night. I did that for about 6 or 7 months, and finally Clayton asked me, how much is it paying you while you wash the dishes? The owner paid me $50 a week. He said, well, I'll pay you that. So I quit washing dishes and began to work for him full time. One of the most beneficial experiences in my career.
And how long did you practice before you became a judge?
I became a judge on December the 7th, 1976. I was sworn in on June 18th, 1951.
And what made you leave the practice of law after 25 years to become, you know, a sitting judge in the Circuit Court of Cook County?
That's a very, very good question. I did not want to be a judge. The truth is, I got a call from one of the political powers that be in the city, 2 o'clock in the morning, stating to me that we want you on the ticket. There had been any number of judicial scandals in the city and in the county. And the caller told me this call is confidential and the mayor wants you on the ticket. And
yeah, that's Mayor Daley.
That's right.
Old Man Daley.
That's right. And various other politicians want you on the ticket because you would bring integrity to the ticket and what have you. I said, no, I don't want to be a judge. He said, well, we'd think about it, and we would like very much for you to accept. I said, no, I won't. But I don't want to be discourteous, so I'll tell you, yes, I would think about it. Hung up the phone. My wife said, and I was about to go back under the cover to go to sleep. She said, just a minute, honey, let's talk. I said, uh-oh, let's talk about what? She said, the call you just got. She said, I heard the conversation. And she said to me, you have always insisted to us that if everybody is going east and you're the only person going west, don't you stop and go east just because everybody else is going east. But at least you stop going west and ask everybody, why are you going east and not going west?
Right.
And then when you find out the answers, then you can make an intelligent determination as to whether or not you want to continue going west, whether you want to stop, or whether you want to turn around and go east. She said, I said, what that got to do with the call I just got? And her in East Tennessee hillbilly way, she said, well, I'll tell you, there are 45,000 lawyers in Chicago right now who would have given their right arm to get the call you just got. They all are going east, and you going west. At least you ought to stop and ask yourself, why is it that you don't want to go east with the 45,000 lawyers?
Speaking of going east,
this is very interesting. Because next morning, when I went to court, Richard Fitzgerald was the presiding judge. When I opened the courtroom door to walk into this courtroom, Gene, come up here, come up here, come up here. Come on back in my chambers. He said, you got a call last night. They want you on the ticket. I said, I thought the call was confidential. He said, learn this. There's no such thing as confidentiality in a democratic society. He said, you cannot afford to turn down a request of one of the most powerful political organizations in the world. He said, you can't. He says, you must accept it, and in fact, take it, and if you don't like it, you can resign, you can retire, you can resign, just do 6 months, but you can't say no. I said, well, I'll think about it. Left. I don't know the judge's courtroom, but I went to 704 in the criminal court building.
At 26 in Cal?
26 in California. When I opened the door, come up here, come up here, come up here. Judge said, and he said, who the H you think you are? Says, you think you better than us or something? I said, no. He said, but Gene, that's the perception you would give if you persist on not being a judge. I said, think about it. I said, okay, fine, I will. I went home that afternoon and told my wife about it. She said, they called back today, and here's the number, and she dialed the number and handed me the phone and said, yeah, tell him you'll accept. I told him, yes, I'll accept. That's how I became a judge.
That's how you became a judge.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me ask you about one of your cases. When you got off the bench, the Ryan Harris case.
Okay.
I know that one rings a bell.
Oh, yes.
98. That case involved, at that time, and maybe still to this day, two of the youngest people in the country who were charged with murder, two little boys on the South Side who were charged with murdering a young girl. And
yes.
As it turned out, the little boys didn't murder the girl. And you represented the boys and their family, and the boys were ultimately awarded $6.2 million. My question to you is that case didn't happen in New York. It didn't happen in L.A. It happened right here in Chicago, just about 10 years ago.
1998.
What, if anything, did that case say to you about our town? That something tragic like that received attention not only nationwide but worldwide, that two little boys would be prosecuted on the South Side of Chicago by the city and the power structure that exists here. What were you thinking?